Right, I'm going to mix some more blue, but this time this is going to be for the veining and the shadowing. So I'm going to mix a blue that's quite dilute and a blue that's not as dilute, but is still quite dilute. So I'm going to put similar amounts of Psycho paint in both pots. A and B. Give it a twirl. And I'm going to use the blue again that we used, which is, if you're using sand paint, you use the cyan. And I'm going to use a little bit in this one and a little bit more in this one. It's not an exact science. If you think you've put too much in, start it again. Right, that might be too much, but we're going to add some thinners and see. Right. I'm using a brush to mix this with, as opposed to the stick, because the brush does mix it in a little bit better. With blue, you've got to be really careful that you don't leave any pigment behind, any raw pigment, because if you get raw pigment on your kit, you're going to be regretting it. You might be anyway. And this is a slightly darker one. I actually think it's going to be too dark. I think that's probably more like the dark one, and this is probably, I need to do a lighter one again. So you need a darker one and a lighter one, but I think that's probably the right colour for the darker one. And I'll do another to do it slightly lighter. I'm going to put the solvent in first before the pigment on this one, so I can control it a bit better. I'm putting a little bit less solvent in than I did for the spongy ones, because I want it just that tiny bit more paint in it. Don't know if you can actually hear my cat crying outside the door. He wants to come in and lie down, but he can't. That's a bit better. Right. Right, what I'm going to be doing with the lighter one, first of all, is doing the areas where we want a little bit more shadowing. So I'm just going to apply it with a brush, dabbing it on. Over the area, so sort of like in the bits which are the creases and that we haven't yet painted, and the areas that are can you hear my cat? The areas that are more dipped in, like the over the brows, around the outside of the, 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 around the nose, the edge of the lips, the creases over the chin. Just, it's barely there. The colour is literally barely there. Temples, inside the ear. It's literally just a tiny little bit of an impression of a colour. It's not even the colour. Just dulling down the pink. Again over the brow, the temples, inside the ear. You can barely see it, so you can be quite confident with it. Inside of the eye, and again with these, inside the eye. As you can see on the on this, the colour is barely there. That cat is determined to get in, isn't he? Do you think I should let him in? I think I'll go and let him in. Come on then, Merlin, hurry up. Come on, hurry up. Hurry up. Now he's sitting outside the door going, I don't know if I want to come in or not. Oh, he's in. At least it's shutting up anyway. Right. Oop, nearly put my brush in the wrong one then. So I'm just doing the shadows, I would call them. Shadows in the very, 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 very pale blue. Right, I'm going to fast cure this and then we'll do the next bit of the blue. Make sure it doesn't collect in the creases. We don't want a puddle of blue. We don't want to actually be able to see it. We just want it to be starting to have an effect on the three dimension of the head. Now the cat is wanting to go back out again. Right, I'm going to let the cat back out and I'm going to fast cure these two, and then I'm going to move on to the slightly darker colour blue. Okay? Right, I've fast cured both of those. So now I'm going to go to the slightly darker colour of blue, which is not dark at all. Please do not ever use a dark colour blue. We're talking that. That's how it looks on the kitchen towel. Again, barely there. I'm going to use a thinner paintbrush. I'm going to draw in the veins on the head. I'm using a 2-0 paintbrush. Don't really have to use it that thin, but yeah. I'll just do a wriggly. Can you see? Can you actually see that? little bit of tapping in on and off, because veins don't necessarily have, they're not showing through exactly the same in every little part of the, sometimes they come further near the surface and sometimes they're further away. So I'm just going to do a bit of a wriggly line, just tapping in and out. There we are. I don't know if you can see that. Barely there. Barely there. And then I take from that vein, another one coming down here. Babies, they don't really always have very visible veins. If they do, it's usually on the temples. But putting a vein into a reborn doll or a silicone doll does tend to add to the realism. People say, oh, look at those realistic veins, and they like seeing the veins on the head, even though on a real baby you wouldn't necessarily see veins on it. So if people like the fact that it adds to the realism, then I'm happy to go with that. Just add a little bit here, because it really does look good when you have some realistically done veins. There we are. That's all I'm going to do with him and for hers, because these are, I am painting these in a very newborn looking colour scheme. They're only little babies, one's 14" and one's 16". So it's going to either look like a, it's going to be a mini baby or a preemie baby. So it'll look right for them to be painted in a fairly newborn style. I'm always shocked at how tiny. I mean, newborn babies are supposed to be sort of 19 to 20 inches, but I'm always shocked at how tiny they actually look. Some newborn babies, their heads, you could literally feel as if you could hold it in the palm of your hand. So this is going to look a bit like that, really. Clothing wise, for these sizes, preemie, there are a few preemie baby clothes shops in the UK that sell some really nice little outfits now, not just the ICU style, sleep suits and things. There's a shop called Little Mouse in the UK, and they do some really lovely preemie outfits for some really tiny babies, and there are a few others as well now. Right, because I think, people do want nice clothes for their tiny babies for when they bring them home. Right, that's the veining. What I'm going to do now is just add a teeny bit of blue. Now you have to really be careful it doesn't pool this bit. So I'm going to add a little bit across the top of the nose, across there, and into the crease of the eye. And I'm going to make really sure that there's no puddle there for it to be too blue, if you know what I mean. But there is a little blue blob on the inside of the eye of babies, and us as well to a degree. There we are. I'm just going to do a teeny bit in the little, I can never think what this is called, and the same one on her. Just gives it a little bit of depth. Just going to go tiny, tiny bit around the creases, just to give them a teeny bit of depth, without actually leaving a blue line. You can put it in, take it off again with your brush. But all these creases and things, I'm just going to put it on and then more or less take it off again. So it leaves not a stain, but an impression of a shadow. And the temples, again, add a teeny bit of blue around the temples just to give it a background blueness, because that's where baby's skin is the thinnest and has got most veins underneath, beneath the surface. To go over the lips just very, very lightly as a impression. Nostrils. Just keep working it. I think that's all I need to do. Just giving it depth, a little bit, a tiny depth. But as I say, you don't want to be able to see the blue. If you can see it, then it's too dark, or you've done it too much, or it's settled in a puddle, which you don't want. You just want it to apply it more or less place and take it off again. Right, I would quite like to do around the ears and the creases underneath as well, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just apply some heat to this to cure it before I start handling it to do underneath the chin and the ears. So I'm going to fast cure this, and then I'll be back with the same colour just to finish doing the underneath the creases under the chin and the ears, the shadows on the ears. So I'll be back in a little while, just in a couple of minutes. Right, okay, I have fast cured that. So what I'm going to do is go underneath the chin and just do the same with the area under here. Just give it some shadow, some depth. What we're aiming for is not, we're not painting creases, we're just giving them some depth so that they look three-dimensional, you know. That's a flange. I don't need to paint that. Again with the ear, I'm just giving the ear inside the ear that depth. And the same with the other side. Try not to let the blue paint settle in the creases if you can help it. Right, I'm just going to pop that back down and do the other one, the little lad. They're looking rather cute already, I think. Paint it on and then brush it out. There we are. There we are. I'm really pleased with those so far. There we are. Right, I'm going to fast cure those and then we'll go on to the next stage. Okay. Right, we're back again. I just went and had a quick lunch and we are back. So what we're going to do now is do some more work on the inside of the shadowy bits. So I'm going to mix together two of the colours that are already mixed anyway. So I'm going to mix together blood and a little bit of blue. What I want is a kind of a dull plum, kind of winey plum kind of colour. So we don't already have a colour. We didn't already have a colour in the sand colours either. Not in the selection that I did. But if we mix together the blood and the green, the blue, sorry, the blue that we mixed up, hopefully we'll get something close to what I want. So I'm going to mix together some A and B. And this time I'm not going to mix it quite as dilute as I have been doing. I'm probably going to be doing about half and half solvent to silicone. Right, I'm going to add some of the number 1 blue. Not too much of this because, as we know, it's very potent, this colour. And some of number 3 blood. More of this. Right, see how that looks. What I'm aiming for is a kind of yeah, it's kind of plummy, winey colour. Oh gosh, considering there's so little blue in it, it's really taken the blue, hasn't it? I'm going to put some more of the blood in and hope that when I dilute it, it's not going to look quite as dark, the pigment. Right, I'm going to add the solvent. As I say, it's going to be about half and half instead of it being 2/3 solvent to 1/3 Psycho paint and pigment. We're going to be applying this similar to how we did with the blue. We're going to be painting it on and kind of almost painting it off again, just to give it a kind of a stain of the slightly darker colour. I don't want it actually painting as if we painted it that colour. There we are. I'm just going to see what colour that is on the that looks a bit black, doesn't it? Yeah, I don't like that. I'm going to start again. So I'm going to get another tub and find one. I think what I've done, I've added too much blue, which has just made the red and the blue and the green, it's just got all mixed together. It's basically all the three primary colours mixed together, and it's gone black. So, right, a bit more Psycho paint, bit more Psycho paint. This time I'm going to add the red first. And I'm only going to add a touch. Well, I'll add the red. This is the blood colour. And I'm just going to add a little tiny touch of blue. I mean, literally the tip of the cocktail stick. Tiny tip of the cocktail stick, and I'm not even going to fill it with that. I'm just going to give it a tiny nudge. Give it a nudge. There we go. That's what I want. That's the colour I want. So it's blood with just a tiniest nudge of blue. That's our new word for the day. Nudge. A nudge of blue. Right, I'm going to put the solvent in. Again, half and half really. Mix it with a brush. Give it a good mix. These brushes I use are just really cheap brushes, cheap artist brushes from Amazon. You can get them in packs of sort of 5 to 10 brushes, different sizes, and they only cost like less than £1 each really. So it's really not worth spending a lot on brushes when, you know, there's a good chance you're going to only use them once or twice, and then, you know, it'll get, that's a bit better. You can't really see the colour. Well, it looks black on here, but it's actually not. It's more red. It's more purpley. Maybe add a teeny bit more of the red actually. Here we go. We'll make a decision and then don't stick to it. Yeah, that'll be fine. That'll be fine. Right, that's odd. Right. I'm going to... I should stop doing that, it's freaking me out. Like a Ouija board thing happening in front of my eyes. Right, yeah, you can see it's a kind of purpley red. Just going to give it a really light coat over the shadows. Stop it. In the creases, but not let it just build up in the creases, just brush it on, brush it off. just to add to the depth of these darker, these deeper areas, which are still quite light compared to the skin colour around it. Ears. Don't let the colour collect in the creases, just shadowing things. There we are. Right. So the areas we're looking at are the inside of the eyes, across the nose a little bit at the top, in the nostrils, around the edges of the nostrils, underneath the mouth where the chin goes in, corners of the mouth, in the ears, any neck creases, and so on. There we are. Right, I'm going to fast cure that, and again sort of like in the shadows of the brow, above the brows, and the temples a little bit. Yeah. And I'm going to fast cure that.